My 38 male brother and his wife, 33 female, approached us 2 years ago that they had plans to go for IVF and wanted to have a better insight about it from me. I knew they were skeptical since I was not lucky with it, so I offered to pay for them whenever they were ready. Knowing how expensive IVF can be, my wife and I adopted our beautiful kids after years of trying for our own. That same year, it took us a while to get to this point, and it's been amazing so far. I love my children to bits and cannot imagine my life without them. Their age is 3 and 4 now. We noticed that sister-in-law has always acted weird when she was with my children, although I chalked up her behavior to the fact that she had no children yet. I was not impressed by her tendency to point out that my children are adopted. We never heard this from them since they had the right to know. But my sister-in-law made sure to remind them every time they do something childish. We warned her about it and even stopped her from seeing the children the third time because I heard a telling my child that no son of our family who had my great-grandfather's blood in him would be caught being messy like he was. We came around after she explained that she did not see that to exclude him, but to motivate him to do better. At our last gathering, she announced that she was organizing a fun trip for the children in the family as she planned to give them a nephew only soon. My older brother, children, as well as my children, were excited. She listed out all the fun activities she planned for them, and to be honest, it sounded exciting. My children planned for days afterward, but on D-Day, she did not show up. We believed her when she told us that she had a busy schedule and told our children the same. But my elder brother's wife told us that it was not true. A sister-in-law had taken her children on the trip. She was surprised to find out that sister-in-law left my children behind. Although I was pissed off, I didn't mention a thing about this until my little nephew let it slip out. That sister-in-law had told them that she would form a family playgroup for just them and her unborn children. And my children weren't going to be a part because they are not blood related. He then proceeded to ask me if they aren't his cousins because they don't have the same granddad. Sister-in-law denied ever saying that and accused my nephew of missing supporting her, and things escalated from there. We were informed that she was fond of saying that she needs the IVF to work because she prefers to give our family a biology girl child instead of adopting strangers and tainting the family line. She also dislikes our children and has said nasty things about them and their birth parents. My wife and I excused ourselves and left since the whole thing was turning toxic. My brother called afterwards, but he kept making it look like a casual affair, a random gossip, and not something we should take seriously. He never apologized and accused me of being bent on blowing up matters. It was obvious he saw nothing wrong in what she did, and it looked like he shared her beliefs. So I told him that if he considered my children strangers, he should extend the same consideration to me. He said that I should start acting my age and stop overreacting. Then he ended the call. Afterward, he called back to remind me of my promise to pay for their IVF because they had decided that it would be that month. I told him that I wouldn't carry on helping someone who considers my children as strangers, so I would not be assisting them as promised. My sister-in-law and brother have been blowing up my phone since that day. They are now apologizing and calling the incidents a joke. They've tried roping in my other brother and the rest of my family, but I have maintained my stance to not assist them, as I earlier promised my family members think I should forgive them and give them the money, but I won't. I would rather give it to charity. Am I an evil for doing this? Update. My brother and his wife went ballistic when they realized that I was resolute in my decision. So they stopped talking to me and have been avoiding me. I don't care. My children are happier since no one is mistreating them or accusing them of not being family. Thank you for your support and encouragement. Now for the top comments. You're not the eagle. Paying for IVF is like equipping your sister-in-law with exactly what she needs to hurt your kids. She has already made it clear that if the IVF is successful and she has a kids, she would find ways to make your kids feel like they aren't part of the family. Why would you give her money for that? The fact that your brother sees nothing wrong with her behavior is alarming to me. She's the one looking for trouble. She's the one who is being toxic to kids that are just 3 and 4 years old. She doesn't have to want to adopt herself, but she should respect your decision to do so. She should also treat the kids well instead of telling them every chance she gets that they aren't biologically yours. Cutting them out of your life was a very good decision. They don't deserve your help. Story 2. So growing up, my 26 female parents didn't really have any money. My childhood was still happy and loving, but I can remember specific instances where things I wanted to do. Play hockey on a bike, just one feasible because my parents couldn't pay for it. I started working at 14 and moved out at 82. In my mind is the load. My mother is a champion. She's worked so hard in her career in the last couple of years. She has become very, very successful, and is now worth more money than any of us could fathom. I really can't put into words how incredibly proud I am for all she's accomplished, and I don't think there's anyone that deserves it more. My problem, however, comes in the form of this nagging bitterness that I can't shake. My brother, 22, still lives at home and they're all just having the time of their lives. Expensive dinners, going to the casino. He's got a brand new custom-built PC, and the basement, his room completely redone. Honestly, the list goes on. I went to visit last weekend, and their weekend entertainment is online gambling. So I sat there and watched the news around two and bets, and it was just no big deal. If I have more than $100 after payday, I'm so goddamn proud of myself. It was mind-blowing. My mom must have noticed I was uncomfortable because she made an account on that site and deposited $50 so we could all have fun together. Now it's all my mom's money, so how she spends it should not be my concern at all. But I can't stop feeling resentful. On Thursday, she informed me that she, my dad, and brother had booked a weekend to a casino resort. And could I please watch the kid? And they just got last week. It just feels like I'm an afterthought because I'm not in the immediate vicinity. I have really awful anxiety and depression, and my mom has been a huge part of my ongoing effort to get well. But since the money, it just feels like she isn't there. Whenever I call, just looking to chat and feel better, she can't talk. And if the problem is material groceries, vet bill, house maintenance, then she offers to pay and assumes the matter is closed. I feel like such a petulant child, but I just want to talk to my mother. I just want to go home and hang out watching YouTube videos like we used to not stare at an online slot machine and cheer when we win $5 for 6 hours. I'm so happy for my parents to have the life they've always wanted, but now that it's here, I hate it. I hate feeling so bitter and jealous. I hate going over there and having to use my credit card just to buy a $10 bottle of wine to hang out with my family while they spend thousands on an online game. I guess I'm just looking for advice or strategies to be happy enough with myself that what they do doesn't bother me. Update! It took a few days to digest what a lot of people were saying. At the end of the day, I hope to approach the situation as me wanting to be close to my family again, and basically trying to ignore the money part for the next couple of weeks. If I wanted to talk to my mother, I made sure to call at a time. I knew she wasn't swamped with work either before she left for the day or before going to bed, and if anything to do with money came up, it was treated as a side note. Oh, Dad, 140 last night online. That's awesome for him. Where are you traveling for work tomorrow? Have you been there before? Are you looking forward to it? And she just sort of opened up. I told her how I was feeling slighted, fully addressed the issue, and even told her how I felt. The slight favoritism towards my brother because he was present was getting to me. My mother is an extremely intelligent woman reading back on my posts. I think I stressed this a lot, but she really, really is. We had our one superficially chat and moved on, but she's been going out of her way to show me she's serious this time with actions, not just words. I was over recently and before she dropped me off at home. We live about an hour away from one another. She stopped at a store and remarked, "Your dad and brother lost $600 last night online. What kind of FTA logic is it that I can't afford to buy you some groceries?" Our upcoming Christmas plans, which I was dreading, are now actual plans. She's picked out a theme for before and after dinner, either which involve gambling and is incredibly focused on us spending time away from a computer screen. Our gift exchange is a $20 limit, and she found some games online so that nothing is tailored towards anyone, and we all feel included. She's been providing ideas for the wedding planning, and even called me the other day saying, "Will you call me all the time?" And I was thinking about you, so I thought I'd call you just to chat. Overall, I'm kind of stoked about where this is going. It's only been less than a month, but I've never known my mother to commit to something and not stick with it, so I'm remaining hopeful. Thanks for all the inside personal experiences and words of advice for coping. I read every single one of those comments over and over for weeks, so I figured some kind of update was warranted. Now for the top comments. Opie. I'm glad you were able to get through to your mom. Most times the parent doesn't change because they feel like the child is overreacting, but your mom seems to be different. She's also been making what seems like an effort to make it up to you, so that's good. The gambling problem remains though, and I think your mom doesn't see it as a problem. Rich people go broke all the time, which is why we all need to manage our money well. Gambling is one of the worst things to do with money, so try and talk to your mom about that too. Your brother and dad need to quit gambling and find something more productive to do with their time. Good luck to you and your family. Gambling is one of those things that's designed to be so addicting with the flashing lights and sounds and intermittently rewards that everything else in life just seems dull. I've seen families sucked into casinos and it's scary as F. Please try to get them help. I'm glad you worked that out. Also, from your previous post, I will note that it sounds like your family members are addicted to gambling, which should be easy to discuss. Should you choose that path now that you and your mom are on even footing again? You shouldn't gloss over the gambling addiction. You should get them some serious help before they end up literally being that original family you remember. Sounds like she might be aware of her own feelings on the activities and maybe didn't know how to express them or feel they were valid too. Maybe she's been having thoughts that their gambling is a little too much and wants to do something besides that and is relieved you're helping redirect her focus. She may have tried, but it didn't get anywhere with the others, or felt it was useless to try. It sounds like she loves you very much. Story 3. My twin sister, 18F, and I, 18F, took a genetic test, and we did not share any DNA. What should my next step be when no one in the family is telling me why? My twin and I are fraternal twins. Recently, we took a genetic test for fun because we wanted to see what we shared and the differences between us. Since we still shared genes, fraternal twins are like siblings genetically. My grandparents had suggested the tests and got them for us, so our parents didn't know about it. But our results made no sense. My twins was coming up almost completely as Eastern European and Western European, which makes sense as most of my family are Croatian, German, or Austrian, so all of that would be accurate. But mine wasn't anything like that. It was almost completely Scandinavian with some Russian and a couple of other places. Neither of which were on my twin's result. She had a very small percentage of Scandinavian, but that was it. And we had no matched DNA, which clearly seemed impossible. We were literally twins. We have to share DNA. My twin said they must have mixed my sample up with someone else. We ended up contacting the company, and my twin and I took a test again. It was the same result. Both my twin and I were really confused. We told our grandparents, and they just said that was interesting and said nothing else. My twin said we should tell our parents and see if they had ever done a genetic test, or if any of our siblings had, and then we could see if somehow ours were still right. I mean, it kind of made sense I'd have Scandinavian, because I'm much taller than my mother, and quite a bit taller than my twin, and I'm way better at football and handball than she is. And I'm very blonde compared to the rest of my family, but I had thought it was the German. When we told our mother, they reacted almost the same way as my grandparents, but she seemed annoyed, and said that they're inaccurate anyway and our grandparents shouldn't have told us to take one. And when we asked our father, he basically said nothing. I'm confused. I know my twin thinks it's just a mistake, but I don't think so. We have to share DNA, about 50%. That's how twins and siblings work. Even though we're fraternal, we should still share quite a bit of DNA. But other explanations don't make sense. My mother can't have cheated on my father because my twin and I would still share DNA. Just less because we would have different fathers. The results mean we can't share a parent, or even be related. But I don't see why my parents would adopt me if I'm not their child, when I don't think they've ever been to Scandinavia, and why they'd adopt a baby that's almost exactly the same age as their baby. I'm panicking. The person I'm closest with in the whole world, who I thought I even shared the womb with, might not even be related to me. My birthday might not even be real. None of this makes any sense, and no one is telling me the truth. I'm also scared my twin might tell her boyfriend about it, and then people might end up knowing that I'm some kind of fraud and my family isn't my family at all. Edit. I called the clinic where my mother gave birth to all of my siblings. The day of my birthday, my mother is in the records, but only for one birth. Not two, not twins. I don't know if it's an error or my mother didn't give birth to me. Update. So I'm adopted, which was probably quite obvious as soon as I got the results, but I guess I was in denial. My parents told me a couple of days ago, not much, but a bit. I know now that my mother was Danish and my father's old girlfriend from when he was really young, which is seriously weird. I asked them a lot of questions, but I didn't get answers to all of them. I don't know who my father is, how my parents were able to adopt me, and why, if she's even alive, nothing. But thankfully I am actually legally adopted by them, which is a relief, since I was worried I might not be. And my birthday is actually my birthday, so they haven't been committing any weird fraud. It's very weird. My sister has been acting weirdly, and my family as well, but in some ways, it's a relief. My parents still feel like my parents, and my siblings like my siblings. I know that technically they're not, but I don't feel too upset about it. I'm just upset they lied and also won't tell me everything. I don't know if they genuinely don't know or don't want to talk about it, but at least I have an idea about everything now. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about it, but I'm glad I know about things now. Plus, now I have a country that's actually good at football to support, which is nice. Maybe someday I'll find out everything, maybe not. I could probably look her up and find her if I wanted to, but I'm not sure if I do, if she's still alive. Although everything is different, It doesn't feel so bad, but it does at the same time. It's very weird. But I have a family that loves me, so it could be much worse. I feel sad about my twin, since we're not actually related, which feels really different, and she's acting different as well. But I still love her a lot, and my parents as well. I think it will take some time to know how I really feel. In some ways, I want to be mad at everyone and do stupid things, but that's only sometimes. And overall, I feel okay, so that's good. And eventually, I think I'll be content with how everything is. Story 4. Am I wrong for ending a 20-year marriage because I learned my wife cheated on me while we were dating? My wife, 44F, and I, 43M, have been married 20 years. We started dating in high school when I was a junior and she was a senior. We were long distance for her first 2 years of college while I was in high school and did 1 year at community college. Then we went to college in the same city for a year and have lived together since. We got married the summer after I graduated college. Our marriage has been pretty great so far, but I initiated a divorce after I discovered that she was sleeping with multiple other men for the 2 years we were long distance. Just after Christmas, we got together with a few friends of hers from college to catch up, have dinner, and hang out. We talked about a lot of stuff, and my wife mentioned that we met in high school. Not that we dated, just that we met. Her old college room commented that it was crazy that we met in high school, had a few wild years in college, then ended up together. I played along and commented that I didn't know if my wife was as crazy as I was. The roommate started to tell a story, but my wife cut her off and said she was uncomfortable about it. I sensed something was up, so I said that we actually started dating in high school and were together for my wife's entire time at college. All of my wife's friends got real quiet, and the rest of the dinner was awkward. On the way out, one of her other roommates took me aside and said I should have an honest conversation about what happened at college. I asked my wife on the way home, and she kind of blew me off. I told her it was important that she was honest with me, and again she said it wasn't important. When we got home, I told her I was going to stay at my brother's house until she was ready to talk about what happened in college. The next day, she came over and admitted to sleeping with several men during her first 2 years at college. She said she didn't consider it a big deal at the time because we were long distance and she didn't think a high school romance would last. I pressed for more details, and she said it was at least 10 different men, including at least 3 guys she introduced to me as friends when I came to visit on weekends, and 1 guy she was still in contact with. I told her that I wanted a divorce and would be starting the paperwork as soon as I could, which I did on January 2nd. Her family and most of my family is telling me I shouldn't throw away my marriage over a few mistakes. I've stood by my belief that cheating on me with multiple men for years is unacceptable, no matter when it happened. And the fact that she continued to maintain relationships with these guys right in front of me was an unacceptable amount of disrespect. We have 2 children, but they are 17 and 19, and I believe they will understand why I need to end the marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? I feel like I'm going crazy with the amount of people telling me to overlook years of infidelity and decades of lies. Edit. Holy shit. I'm glad I did this with a throwaway because the response here is unexpected. I obviously can't answer every question comment, but I wanted to provide some detail for common questions. The reason I posted this is that my wife and a few friends have been saying it's common to sleep with other folks when you're in a long-distance relationship, and that I'm kind of the odd one out for not sleeping around. I felt like I was being gaslit, but I wanted an outside perspective. We live in a state with a waiting period to finalize a divorce, so I felt it was a reasonable idea to get some insight before things are finalized. After these comments, I see a handful of folks saying it's normal to sleep around during a long-distance relationship, but it seems to be a significant minority. We saw each other a couple of weekends a month during the 2-year college period. I lived about 3 hours away from her college, so it was long distance, but not like cross-country. This was not a situation where we went months without seeing each other. The 3 guys I met while she was in college were meetups that happened during parties. The subject of me being a boyfriend didn't really come up, so I honestly don't know if these guys knew anything. The 1 guy we're still in contact with married a mutual friend from college. This is not some guy she secretly messages on the side. It's somebody we've talked to regularly for years. I've talked to him a few times since I've learned about my wife. He said he didn't know we were dating at the time and has since blocked my wife on social media. Some folks have asked how the roommates didn't realize at our wedding that the timelines didn't work out. The main reason is that my wife and I had a very small ceremony with just close family in Texas, then went back to the East Coast to have a big party with friends. The typical reception sharing details about how we met stuff didn't really happen, so her roommates didn't realize we started dating before college. It sounds like they thought we only dated for the year we were both in the same city, then moved in together. I was open to therapy or some kind of attempt to save the marriage, but her insistence that this whole thing is common and I'm the one who's out of line is just too much for me. The only time she showed any remorse, or even offered to reconcile, is when I started filing paperwork. In the last week, she's gone back to saying she's right and I'm overreacting. This is also why I'm feeling like I'm being gaslit. It seems obvious that this is a major issue, but I've got my wife and others telling me it's normal and I'm overreacting. I'm not getting a paternity test unless my kids want to get one. I don't have any doubts that they are biologically mine, and no test will make them not my kids. I love them more than anything in the world, and my wife's infidelity won't change that, even if one or both of them is not biologically mine. They've been my kids for 19 years, and they will be my kids until I stop breathing. Final edit. Hey all, I've been reading a bunch of the responses, but things are getting crazy and increasingly unhinged, so I probably won't be checking in more. Here are a few more answers to common questions I've seen. We were definitely exclusively dating at the time. First, dating culture was a lot different 20-ish years ago, and exclusive was kind of the default for most people. Second, we had a long and difficult discussion before she left for college about continuing the relationship long distance. She specifically wanted to stay together and even joked about her dad coming after me if I started sleeping around with girls at my school. Finally, at my senior prom, she was not able to attend and was very upset when I proposed going with a platonic female friend of mine. As a result, I ended up skipping my prom and hanging out with her instead. While we never said the word exclusive, I think the above reasons, combined with the general relationship before she left, are enough to assume exclusivity. Based on some comments here, I followed up with the friend that said I should have an honest conversation. She told me that 10 guys would be on the low end, and that her biggest concern was that there was apparently at least one pregnancy scare that I didn't know about. I honestly don't think that really changes much. It's less about the number for me, and more about the fact that she seems incapable of recognizing why this was wrong or why I feel betrayed. Thank you all for the helpful responses, even those that disagree with me. I will still be open to therapy if she's willing, but I honestly feel like it would be more about us being successful co-parents and finding closure than saving our marriage. Update 1. First, let's talk about the things I learned about the situation in college. After talking to my wife in sessions and texting with two of her roommates, it's clear that her roommates knew something was up in college. They said they thought the situation was weird and likely involved cheating. My wife had told them that we both had some wild times in college and worked it out before we got married, so they never really brought it up. The roommate who pulled me aside recently was uncomfortable with the fact that my wife clearly didn't talk it through with me and wanted me to know. As far as being introduced to guys she slept with, apparently that was not intended. For one of the guys, he ended up dating and then marrying one of our mutual friends from college. This is the guy she was in contact with. In the other situations, she initially blamed me in the counseling session, but has now agreed it was bad. When I went to visit her, she planned to hang out in the room or just hang out together alone, but I wanted to go to a few parties, because in HS and community college, I didn't really have parties to go to. She didn't expect me to meet the guys, but they were at the parties and she felt she didn't really have a choice. I still think this is kind of shitty, but it's not as bad as her intentionally parading me in front of the guys. Most of our discussion in therapy has been talking about why I think it's a big deal, and she doesn't. She initially said that none of these guys were in relationships with her, and it was mostly one-night stands or FWB. Since she didn't view them as romantic relationships, she didn't see the big deal. Her words, not mine. My opinion is that we never said that was okay, and she actively prevented me from doing the same. After digging into this across 2 sessions, and my wife talking to some friends, she now agrees that it was a breach of our trust relationship. This is the shared understanding that has helped us talk about this situation more honestly and helped us get from arguing to talking, which is why I'm optimistic about co-parenting. Now here's why I'm 100% set on divorce. 2 things came up that make me want to leave the marriage. First, about 10 years ago, we went through a really rough patch and had a dead bedroom for about 2 years. She had expressed that our sex life was becoming boring, so I tried to spice things up. Nothing crazy, just role play and like Spencer's gift level sex toys. Apparently, she had been hung up some sexual experiences that happened in college that she is not comfortable talking about, and wanted me to try them. But when I did, it made her feel awkward and guilty that it made her think of other men while she was with me. The fact that she's saying these experiences were meaningless, but they're still impacting our marriage, tells me they meant more than she wants to say. Second, she admitted that she has been flirting with coworkers on business trips since the pandemic ended. She says she has never slept with anybody, but it got as far as going on a date with one of her male coworkers. That was the absolute deal breaker for me. We have told our children that we're getting a divorce. We told them it was due to some bad decisions that we made in college that we're having trouble moving past. My 19-year-old, who is in college, asked me if I cheated on my wife while she was away at college. My wife got a little shaken up, but admitted to the kids that she's the one who cheated. We have agreed to not share any additional details with the kids. I reinforced that both us will be there for the kids and that we are in therapy to help make sure we handle this in the best way for the family. I also told the kids that if they wanted to talk to either of us or a therapist about it, that I would fully support it. We've started talking to a mediator about how to proceed with the divorce, and unless things change, we should be able to have an amicable divorce. We're both financially stable on our own, we have no major debts, and our kids are older, so custody isn't a major issue. This has been a shitty couple of months for me, but I'm doing okay now, and I honestly am grateful that my last post blew up because it both validated some of my feelings, but also motivated me to go to counseling with my wife. Update 2. My wife and I have completed our divorce and everything is official. We had an uncontested, amicable divorce with minimal disagreements. Our lawyers worked together to create the plan through mediation, and a judge signed off on it a few weeks ago. In the end, the actual divorce process was pretty straightforward. The only complication was that our 17-year-old was adamant about my having custody because their relationship with my ex-wife has really fallen apart as a result of this. Initially, my wife dug in her heels and was ready to give up on the uncontested marriage, but my son pretty much told her she could choose between letting him have a break for a few months to process and rebuild, or force him to live with her until he turns 18 and risk never seeing him again. I felt this was a bit harsh, but my wife backed down, and we moved forward with my having primary physical custody until my son's birthday later this year. For my part, I have encouraged my son to be open to fixing things as the actions my ex took before he was born didn't change the 17 years she cared for and loved him. Fortunately, as the divorce moved forward, he has been spending more time with my ex, and I'm optimistic they will work through this. In the end, we pretty much split our retirement and investments 50-50. For our house, my wife really liked the house, and I didn't, so she kept the house and most of the furnishings and took out a mortgage to pay me back half of the equity and half of the estimated replacement value of the furniture. Pretty much all of our other stuff was either easy to split, my car and her car, my music gear and her hobbies, clothing, personal effects, etc., or we just agreed to sell it and split the resulting profit. Things were a bit easier for us because we had already documented most of our valuable items and electronics for an insurance rider we added to our home insurance a few years ago. Things have been going well for me personally. Both of the kids spend most of their time at my place, and we are still very close, which was my biggest fear in the divorce. I have a new house that I really love, and I gave into the midlife crisis urge and traded in my outdated minivan for a Lexus LC 550. I even had a woman at work, not a close coworker, invite me out to a coffee date. While I was upfront with her that I'm not ready to date just yet, she said she would be happy to take a rain check and would be happy to go out with me when I'm ready. I'm honestly thrilled because she's really smart, has a great sense of humor, and our positions at work are far enough apart that we don't really work directly with each other at all. My ex and I are continuing to go through couples counseling together. We have transitioned into having closure on our marriage and making sure we maintain our relationship enough to be effective co-parents. While these sessions have been great to help me process things and keep things as healthy positive as possible, given the circumstances, it has also reinforced that divorce was the right option. It's clear from some answers in the sessions that my wife immediately started dating once the divorce process started, so whatever love was there was clearly on the way out already. I'm pretty sure the coworker she was just friends with dropped her off at our recent session. The fact that it doesn't even really make me mad is a good sign that I was also probably done with the marriage. In the end, it will take a long time for me to heal from the betrayal, but I feel like I'm making good progress, and I can honestly say that the divorce was unquestionably the right decision. I've probably cried more in the last 4 months than I have in the last 20 years, but for the last month or so, I felt genuinely good about myself for the first time in a long time. I'm enjoying having my own life, been busy getting my 17-year-old ready for college in the fall, and looking forward to a coffee date with a smart, funny woman in a month or two.